Congress President Sonia Gandhi files nomination papers from Raebareli. Son Rahul Gandhi accompanies her amid rousing welcome. Samajwadi Party releases its manifesto for the Lok Sabha elections, promises to fight inflation and corruption, focus on Purvanchal and Bundelkhand. Modi, Rajnath, Nitish Kumar among top political heavyweights on campaign trail across the country. And special focus on the issue of inflation, which is expected to play a massive role in deciding the outcome of the polls. Welcome to India Votes, and as always, of course, the first 15 minutes are dedicated to the newspaper headlines. The top political stories are going to be discussed over the next 15 minutes or so. And to do that, I have here with me, of course, KV Prasad, the associate editor of the Tribune. Very good morning, Prasad, and welcome to the show. Let's go through these headlines now. Of course, an interesting headline here, the Hindu going with their lead story. Congress will finish second is what Sharad Pawar is saying. And that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, the allies of the Congress have realized that the Congress is not going to be the single largest party. He says the BJP will be the single largest party, but NDA won't reach the halfway mark. Now, that's what the Congress and its allies are counting on.
What Mr. Pawar says has been internally been acknowledged by leaders of the Congress. Obviously, in election time, nobody is going to say that as clearly as Mr. Pawar, who can afford to say that since he's not really the Congress party. Having said that, and the whole question is, everybody knows that the Bharatiya Janata Party's campaign was up and running for the last 8 to 9 months. So they have a head start in this entire episode. And NDA, which wants to come back to rest power after 10 years. So it's the question, as Mr. Pawar puts it, will they touch the magic figure? And if you really look at it, the BJP's entire campaign is 272 plus. The whole idea is because fractured mandate has been the norm in the last few decades, if you look at it. So every party is trying to see, can that be broken? But the fact remains, in the last 20 years, the electorate has turned up a mandate which is not clear.
Do you see that changing this time around?
We don't know yet. People have yet to speak.
But what's the sense that you're getting?
Frank, let's look at it this way. The first vote is yet to be cast. It starts on the 7th of April and goes on to 12th of May. As in they say in American politics, the people haven't spoken yet.
Yes, the people indeed haven't spoken yet. So let's look at another headline, Prasad. Of course, this is an interesting one. I thought, of course, the Times of India here talking about how Team Rahul believes absent Prime Minister has dented the Congress's chances. And the story goes on to talk about how the leaders seem like they are a jaded lot. 10 years of being in power that has completely sapped them. So what do you make of this headline?
Well, I think Rahul Gandhi had a wonderful opportunity to really build his team and his party in Jaipur. In the sense, Jaipur was 1 year ago, a little more than a year ago, January 2013, when he was given the command as the vice president. So effectively, the de facto chief of the party. I think if he had taken his head start at that point of time, now it's, I mean, whether his team spreads this word that the Prime Minister and whatever, I think it's a case of too late in the sense the political management need to have begun then. If you really wanted to yourself to be seen as a party which is contending to at least retain power or seen to be retaining power. Because if the impression gaining ground is the Congress is not really fighting these elections. I mean, that has been the perception not just today, but in the last few months. It's only now that Mr. Gandhi has started traveling to various parts of the country and campaigning actively. Well, I think that's his way of operations. But if his team members are saying what they're saying now, if what you're reporting is showing the Times of India.
The Times of India report.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the report of the paper. Well, that could be an opinion, no doubt about it. But the fact remains, I think the political management should have begun at the party level. And that's where he was given command.
I guess they were banking too hard on the BJP's bubble to burst. That's what they're going on saying. Of course, even now they're saying the BJP's bubble will burst eventually.
It's perfectly all right to believe that the opposition is going to falter. That's fine. I mean, that could be part of your strategy. But the strategy of how aggressive or how effective are the party which is in power? The Congress has been leading the coalition for the last decade. So are you going to sit as hands, okay, we've been in power for a decade, we don't know yet, I mean, like we have an incumbency. Let's look at it. There is a very strong anti-Congress and mood for various reasons. Now, is that going to claw back? Is that an effort to try and change that perception? That's where the political management kicks in.
Okay.
So that's
Certainly,
where,
yes. That's where the political management kicks in, and so far, of course, not much seems to have been done. Let's look at this other headline now. Of course, this particular headline is across all the national dailies. Of course, that's what that's a common headline here on the front pages of all the national dailies. Varun Rahul warm up. Back off is what the Hindustan Times is saying. The Hindu, of course, with a similar headline. Rahul comes in for praise from Varun, and even the Times of India, of course, has a similar headline here. Of course, Varun lauds Rahul's work, then retracts. I mean, it was bound to happen. They are close at the end of the day, but the BJP was shocked by what happened, wasn't it?
Frank, if you don't mind, just flip the Hindu and you see the cartoon. It kind of sums up in the middle page, in the op-ed page of the Hindu. It's a wonderful cartoon which actually captures the dilemma of young Varun Gandhi. Remember, they are cousins, and they've also said, if you remember, before Varun started his campaign, I think I remember having read somewhere that they've decided not to campaign against each other, not to attack personally, and that has been the tradition. Yeah. That has been the tradition in the party, and also between political opponents within the same family. Whether it is a Scindia family, there is an unwritten agreement that they're not going to kind of campaign against each other, not to hit politically. I mean, it's okay to take positions, party positions, but kind of carry out a personal attack. So I don't know if you see the Hindu.
I mean, this is what Prasad's talking about. Of course, this is the cartoon here. You can see it says if it's a hate speech against the rivals, the election commission doesn't like it. If one credits the rival for good work, the party doesn't like it. Is what the cartoon says. Interesting, isn't it? Very, very interesting. Of course.
So it kind of sums up the dilemma. But I also believe that it's time. Acknowledging a good work does not necessarily mean endorsing a political opponent. It's like you say, okay, this guy has done good, so let me do better. So it's like positivity in the campaign, but probably we have seen so much of negative campaigning all throughout that you don't see if a good work is to be done. It's all right to say that, okay, my political rival has done some good work, but I can do better. Or I can replicate that for you in a much better fashion.
Certainly.
So I guess that's where...
that would be far more healthier, wouldn't it?
And also a mature democracy needs this kind of debate.
A mature democracy does indeed need a debate of that kind. Let's look at the other headline now, staying on with the Gandhi family. The Times of India reporting here, this time Vadra may not be seen much in Gandhi bastions in UP. A calculated move, do you believe?
Well, of course, because you've seen a lot of stories appearing about revolving around the gentleman, and there has still been reports going around in the city and in the internet and all over.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of if it is a decision, I don't know if it's a decision as yet, or if there's a decision not of whichever way it works. It's a political calculation, and at the time of elections is always very advisable to take the wise decisions.
Certainly, it is a time to make extremely wise decisions, maybe the wisest decisions that anyone has probably taken. Another headline here with the Hindustan Times, BJP sure of 4 in Delhi, iffy in 3. They're saying they're going to win 4 out of 7 is what the BJP is hoping for. This is an internal survey of the BJP, and they believe that 4 seats are confirmed for them. Another 3 might be very close.
Well, I think everybody's comparing it against the Aam Aadmi Party's performance in the Delhi Assembly elections. Now, that was in December 2013 or November 2013, end of it, November, early December. Since then, things bound to have changed. One, remember, elections to the parliament are different from elections to an assembly. There have been instances in the past when elections going around the same time, the people in the assembly have, or people of a state have voted differently for the assembly, elected a different government at the state and different government at the center. It is a perception. And I guess the BJP's own calculation could be part of that approach. Because Aam Aadmi has a certain vote base. It has shown it in the, and this is the first time they are in contest in a Lok Sabha.
Certainly.
So one doesn't know yet as to how much of that magic they created in Delhi is bound to have an effect and convert it into Lok Sabha seats, because remember, Lok Sabha is a much larger constituency.
It is indeed much
and
larger
also the priorities change.
Yeah.
Because the priorities change for people. Here you're electing a government for the center, which is going to govern over India. And whereas...
it's much more complex,
much more complex, and many more factors. The dynamic of the politics of the national level are different from the dynamics of a state. And indeed. A city-state like Delhi is different.
Certainly, of course, a city-state like Delhi is indeed different. Staying on with the BJP now, of course, this is what the Times of India says. Manifesto to focus on rebooting growth. And the Hindustan Times also carrying a pretty much similar headline, BJP manifesto delayed as Modi stamp not yet okayed. So when we see the BJP manifesto coming out, are we going to see something similar or something on the lines of what Narendra Modi has been talking about all through his campaign trail?
Well, it should be, because if your principal candidate for the Prime Minister, who has been anointed to the position about 6 to 8 months ago, he's been going around the country talking of corporate development, talking of Gujarat model of development, trying to replicate it. I'm sure he would want many elements of it figuring in the manifesto, whether it is called a manifesto or a Sankalp Patra or whatever we're hearing of it, we don't know yet. But the fact is, we're just 4 days away from the first vote being cast. We are already on 3rd of April.
Is it too late now for the BJP? I mean, should the BJP...
Well, that's for the
have released
BJP to
manifesto
answer.
earlier?
It's for the BJP to answer. For the fact remains, yes, one does feel that closer to elections, but probably the BJP's calculation is our Prime Minister candidate is already going around the country saying what he wants to do. But I think the manifesto is not just picking holes at what the opposition or what the principal party in government did not do, but what the party promises to do and how it promises to do. See, it's okay, you can promise many things, but how are you going to achieve it? Because now people want to know how is it going to be delivered, and is it possible? Because everybody knows financials are limited. Everybody knows the economy the way it is talking.
Yes.
Everybody is talking of the economy. It's an internationally globally linked economy. So how are you going to be different? What is the new model? That's what everybody's talking.
That's what everybody is looking for as well,
Yes, of
because
course.
that's going to make a lot of difference. That's going to decide how India is going to progress in the next 5 years. This is another interesting headline. Jaya soft on BJP eyeing national role after polls around. It's not just Jayalalitha, there are several others who are doing this.
Well, if you really look at it, the matrix, as I said, the fractured mandate throws up a very different kind of a scenario. And remember, this time, nobody really had a pre-poll alliance, a big alliance, let's put it this way. If it was 1998, 99, the BJP built the NDA alliance, 22 parties, 26 parties. The Congress returned the favor in 2004 and 2009. But this time around, both parties don't have that kind of allies base. So it's a bit of a loose coalition, which is still in the making. And if you really talk to political leaders across the spectrum, at least not necessarily in the BJP and Congress, they're all looking at a post-poll scenario where, again, once again, the political landscape will be altering. And once you have the results, then you start looking at how are we going to form the government.
Certainly. Everyone, of course, is skeptical about what might happen, and everyone's keeping their cards close to their chest, and also they're looking out for themselves.
Well, of course, that's politics.
This is an alarming headline, of course, and this is something that I wanted to discuss finally with you before I let you go. Of course, the Hindustan Times reporting about how saffron gang molests a Mangalore councillor and their defense is that this particular councillor got close to the Muslim leaders in the area, and that's why they molested her and stripped her. I mean, this is something that is shocking, isn't it? I mean,
is shocking,
we wouldn't
and
want to see something like this, and that's what the minorities really fear.
That's where the tolerance is the question. Everybody's talking of tolerance, the need for a tolerant society, a society which understands and empathizes with different aspirations. And remember, Mangalore was the place where Muthalik and his people learned the pub attacks, for which you just saw him back in the news for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
So I guess it's the same place. So it's a sad commentary.
All right. We'll have to leave it at that, KV Prasad. Thank you so much for joining us this morning here on India Votes. A pleasure having you here on this show.
Thank you very much.
Of course, on that note, we'll slip into a short break, but we'll be back with much more on the other side. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, inflation has often upset the well-crafted political plans of any ruling party. If rising onion prices unseated the BJP government in Delhi in 1998, the Sheila Dikshit administration was paid back in the same coin for its perceived failure to control them in 2014. But is the government alone responsible for the rising prices? Are present policy, I beg your pardon, tools effective enough to put the brakes on inflation? The Rajya Sabha TV series Agenda 2014 takes a look at this complex process of prices, the government's efforts to control them, and their impact on economic growth.
Since 2008-9, double-digit inflation has been a familiar story for India. Unfortunately, it's the food prices that are going up all the time, a cruel mockery for a majority of Indians who spend almost half of their monthly budget on food items.
Both the government and the RBI have acted in tandem. While our efforts have not been in vain, there is still some distance to go. Food inflation is still the main worry, although it has declined sharply from a high of 13.6% to 6.2%.
In the last few years, the matter was extensively addressed by both the opposition parties and the government. Parliament debated the problem. The government initiated an anti-inflation strategy, but to no avail.
Inflation rates were reasonably stable around 5 to 6% per annum, which was perceived by policymakers and the public at large as well as normal until about 4 or 5 years ago. However, since 4 or 5 years ago, the normal has become something like, I'm talking about overall consumer price index, overall rates of inflation of somewhere between 8 to 10%.
Experts agree that the problem was in a large part triggered by the world response to the 2008 global recession. An easy money policy inflated liquidity in the market, but with the production of goods and services failing to keep pace, prices kept rising uncontrollably.
You find that our last 5 years, maximum pressure is on fruits and vegetables, on protein products, dairy, meat, fish, except that in 2013-14, still there is pressure on cereals, and especially on rice.
Caught between a complex interplay of international factors, domestic pressures and ineffective policy measures, the UPA government failed to get a grip on the crisis. It ensured that price rise will not only be a determining element of the Lok Sabha elections, but also an enduring challenge for the next government. Krishnanand Tripathi, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, the Shimoga Lok Sabha seat in Karnataka is witnessing a high-profile contest this time around. Former Chief Minister Bangarappa's daughter Geeta is taking on the BJP's B.S. Yediyurappa. She is seen as the strongest contender by many in the state. She has been extensively campaigning in the state with her Kannada superstar husband Shivraj Kumar. Our correspondent Rajkamal Rao caught up with the couple to know their political prospects. Let's listen in.
Have JDS candidate from Shimoga, Geeta ma'am. Ma'am, what are your prospects in this present election? You're taking against Yediyurappa. Are you feeling competitive?
I am very competitive. Plus, I'm going to people with my father's works and what he had to do. And plus, I have my own vision on Shimoga. I am aware of all the problems here. And one more thing is the people here are very intelligent, the voters are intelligent and they want a change, I feel. The last 4 or 5 days I've been campaigning here. This is the feedback I am getting.
Are you aware of local farmers' issues? Areca farmers and the coffee growers' issues are very prevalent in elections. What are your plans for them?
See, I'm going to be with the people where they are telling we should not grow arachnids. That will not be. People in Shimoga are dependent on that. So I will be with them in this issue and we can't stop them from growing that.
Sir, you are excessively campaigning in this election. Is it new for you or you've been habituated to campaign in elections?
I think it's new for me. And I've been seeing my wife campaigning for 4 days, seeing and listening.
You're confident that she can take on Yediyurappa?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
What is that one thing that can turn in her favor?
I think confidence. Confidence. Every person should have a confidence, but not overconfidence. But I feel my wife has got confidence and think she has got that capacity, ability, and because even I did not think that she knew all these problems from Shimoga. I think it's great about that because we are in different line actually. I am an acting line. But my wife being in this and she was a costume designer for me, in spite of that, she has known because politics is there in her blood, I think, because her father itself was a famous politician. So I think she has got that ideas of doing and she's capable. Thank you.
That's what the couple had to say to Rajya Sabha TV. Geeta is confident that she can take against Yediyurappa. With Manoj, I'm Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, small-scale industries are the backbone of a country's economy. It is very difficult to even measure its contribution to rural entrepreneurship. But many of these industries are losing their relevance to big-scale industries. Rajya Sabha Television brings you the story of one such unit that contributes immensely to India's favourite sport, cricket. Here's more.
India is a cricket-crazy nation. The sport is considered as religion and players as gods by many cricket lovers. Every school-going kid wants to play for the country. This craze and love for the game has developed a parallel industry. Cricket gears always have a market, especially in rural India. Cricket bats manufacturing is a small-scale industry that is purely dependent on the hard work of these people. Carpenters like Jasubhai travel from one state to the other for survival. But increasing raw material prices and unsafe living conditions make their life worse.
फर्स्ट छुट्टी रहता है ना दिवाली में, तब अच्छा चलता है, बाद में थोड़ा डीम होता है, बाद में भी होली के बाद फिर छुट्टी रहती है ना लड़कियों की, तब अच्छा चलता है, सीजन के हिसाब से.
Bat manufacturing is not an easy business. Biku Jarar and his colleagues live on roadside for months to earn money for their survival. His wife and mother also extend support in the business. It takes one full day to manufacture a good bat and 3 days to make wickets. Prices range from 50 rupees to 500 rupees. If they increase the price beyond 500 rupees, their average sales drop. Children want cricket bats printed with their favorite players photographed. Sometimes they want same brand but for cheaper prices. The decorative items on bats increase the investment in addition to the costly wood used.
इधर तो चाहते हैं हमारे को अच्छा जगह होना एक रहने के लिए, साल में 5-6 महीने आते हैं, बाद में गांव को चले जाते हैं. ये जगह हमारे को सूट नहीं होता, छोटा हो रहा है.
The manufacturing industry has been in trouble for the past few years. Industrial output has seen its all-time low in last year. As per the Ministry of Small and Medium-Scale Industries data, there are at least 25 lakh small-scale manufacturers in the country. Majority of the manufacturers are in huge debts. Government has put in place measures to register their products so that a minimum support price can be fixed. But lack of education and low awareness make them vulnerable to extortion.
This bat manufacturing unit is one of those small-scale industries in the country which is independent and they earn money on their own. All they want is small governmental support in terms of concessions in acquiring raw materials. With camera person Manoj in Shimoga, Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, with its 2 Lok Sabha seats going to elections on the 12th of April, all efforts are being made to ensure maximum voter turnout in Goa. An awareness drive was also organised where people asked questions to political candidates from different parties. Take a look.
In a bid to bring awareness among people for greater participation in exercising their voting rights, a non-governmental organization in Goa organized a direct interaction between people and political candidates from different parties. At a public debate at Azad Maidan in Panjim, questions were put up for the candidates of the ruling party Congress, Aam Aadmi Party and CPI.
यही वोटिंग से हमारे देश की आगे की सब रणनीति होती है. ये वोटिंग के ऊपर हमारा देश का सब इकोनॉमी चलती है. ये वोटिंग के ऊपर से हम अवेयरनेस करने के लिए वोटिंग लोगों के लिए करने के लिए लोगों को बोले हैं, तो लोग वोटिंग 100% करेंगे. जो यहाँ पे आए थे वो करेंगे ही.
The crowd was keen on asking questions related to development and other betterment plans for the state. The awareness drive on voting concluded that if people vote for the right person who can lead the nation in the right direction, corruption will end.
I believe that it is the voters' right to vote, and each one should try to see that it is the system that is bad. It's not basically any party. We have to work on against corruption, whoever it is.
The picturesque beach state awaits high voltage clashes on both its Lok Sabha seats. Both the Congress and the BJP have one sitting MP each from the state, but one could possibly see a three-way contest with the Aam Aadmi Party joining the fray this time around. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.